In this video, I'm going to cover all the YouTube targeting options we have available for our video campaigns in Google Ads. And over the past year, there have been many updates to how we can target our videos in the channel. So I want to make sure that we cover everything, but I'm going to start off with going over my favorite options, the ones that I see be the most successful in almost all of my client accounts. Then we're going to make sure that we also cover all the new updates so you have a better understanding of what options you may want to use for your video campaigns. Okay, I know I said in the intro that I was going to go in the order of my favorites, but then when I hopped into Google Ads and we're creating a new ad group, I realized it's easier to show you the targeting options in order as you're creating your ad group. So I'm going to switch it up, and that's the order I'm going to go over for YouTube targeting options, but I still want to call out my favorite ones just so you're aware of the ones I've seen work the best for me. And first, we see demographics. These are not to be confused with detailed demographics, and we will talk about those soon. But for your video campaigns, you can adjust your targeting by gender, age, parental status, and depending on what country you're in, the household income. The default settings for this ad group targeting is going to have every demographic checked, and we can see that right here. If there are any demographics that we don't want, and we uncheck them just like I did here, it's going to narrow our targeting, and that user persona is going to get a little bit more specific. And the more specific you get with your targeting, the smaller your audience is going to be, which will limit your reach. And one thing to possibly consider is the industry that your company or account is in. It may not always be controlled or caught by Google, but there are specific industries, I'm thinking about housing as one of them, where you legally might not be able to narrow your targeting based on specific demographics. I will always put that onus on the advertiser to make sure that you're in compliance with any laws within your industry, but I still need to call out demographics targeting because it is an option that we use in most of our accounts. If I go and close this one up, the next option we see is going to be audiences. Any of the audiences that I'm going to talk about can be found if you're just searching for it, and that is the first placement they're going to send you within this audience section. But I want to skip that one and then go to browse. And now we can start choosing audiences in a variety of ways. The first, which I've already mentioned, is detailed demographics. There aren't a ton of options for detailed demographics, and let me just drill down a little bit further in a couple of these categories. So there was a relationship status one. You see education doesn't have a ton. Employment, there's industry, and then there's company size. And we can choose within our video campaigns to target some of these specific detailed demographics. While there may not be a ton of options, there are a few that are pretty specific. So this could really work for some industries. If you want to learn more about detailed demographics, we already have a video about it where we actually go into each of the options that you have. But we also give examples of how we utilize detailed demographics. While it's not video campaigns, you'll still get a better idea of how you may be able to use it for those. So let's go back. And then next we have affinity audiences. I purely use affinity audiences as a top of funnel play, casting a wider net. And I say that because in Google's own definition of an affinity audience, they relate it to TV-like demographic audience. So think about any popular TV show and think of how many different demographics of users can like the same TV show that's pretty popular. There are a lot of people who could like to watch basketball on TV. There's a ton of different demographics who want to watch the news on TV. So while the basic theme of an affinity audience is there, it's not going to be as honed in on some of the other audience options that we're going to talk about. If I just drill down into a few different options, you can see some of the higher level options like fast food cravers, foodies can be pretty higher level and generic. We see overall book lovers. Book lovers doesn't go any deeper in any specific genre of book. Movies does a little bit more, so depending on what you're looking for, you may or may not find something that works. So we have used this option in a variety of ways. One, if you have a product that is more generic, let's use that coffee shop example. If you know anyone who visits coffee shops are going to like your product and any deeper demographic really doesn't matter, then that could be a good option for you. If you have a bookstore and you offer great discounts and it doesn't matter what genre of books your target audience likes, well, there you go. Book lovers could be a good fit to test. So those overall generic themes can be really good. The second way that we have used this is to really just expand reach. Even though there are some custom options we're going to talk about, I would rather use first. I've had clients with larger budgets who, like I said earlier, want to cast a wide net. They want to see what sort of engagement they can get, and we use that as another top of funnel play to get that user in the funnel, and then we market to that user based on what engagement they have had with other ads or with on that landing page. I'm going to keep moving, but we will circle back on affinity audience very soon. Next, we have in-market and life events. And how those differ from affinity audiences is that affinity is focused more on recent interest. In-market audiences are focused on people actively researching for specific topics or products, that sort of thing. So as we dive into in-market audiences, you are going to find a lot more options to target. I drilled down on the baby products one for a specific reason, because I did have a client I ran a video campaign for that just sold baby strollers. And there definitely is not a baby stroller affinity audience, but there is one for an in-market audience. And if there are people actively out there looking to purchase a baby stroller, I want to get in front of them with a video and have that video send that user to a landing page or potentially to that specific product page. And since there are so many options for in-market audiences, I'm going to go back to the search, change it up a little bit. Just typing in software, I know that's a little higher level, but then we get all the different specific types of software that are available in-market audiences. And you can see how specific we can get in some of these categories. Since there are so many options, and I know there's going to be a variety of different types of accounts watching this video, just search. Try to find what in-market audiences are related to whatever products you're trying to sell within your video creative. This is one of my favorite audience to test, specifically if I can find an in-market audience that is dead on with the products I'm trying to sell. It's a perfect way to get your video in front of someone who is right in that decision-making mode, and that video can encourage them just to, one, bring attention to your brand or your products, or possibly even get that conversion directly from the video ad. Going back to browse, we don't want to forget about the second category right here, and that is life events. This is another one of my favorites, but with an asterisk this time. And I'm calling this one out specifically because life events is another targeting option we have for YouTube that doesn't give us a lot of options. But if there is an option that is applicable to your account, it may turn out to be the best performing one. And I say that because life events targeting is very specific. And the users within these life events audiences are going through a very important milestone in their life. For each of the main life events that we see, it pretty much just breaks down into a couple extra subcategories. So for college graduation, it's going to break down into recently graduated from college or graduating from college soon, recently moved, or someone who's about to move. So if you fit within one of these different life events, come up with a video creative that is emotionally impactful. While a lot of these moments that we see right here are happy moments, they can also be stressful moments. And being the trusted brand going through these big milestones can have a huge impact if you have the video creative to relay that to the user. How are you going to help make their lives easier during these big moments in their lives? Why do they need your brand during these big moments in their lives? Answer these questions. And we do have another video that goes deeper into life events that also shows some examples of how we use this in other campaigns, and you can check that one out right here. Closing this one out, we're going to go back to the main screen. And then one of the options we have to call out, of course it's going to be one of the favorites, is remarketing. Since this is an account that we just created for the sake of making these videos, I don't really have any audiences in here. So to get a better example of what types of remarketing audiences we could use for our YouTube campaigns, let's head up to the audience manager. So let's go under tools and settings, and it's the first option under shared library. To see all the options that we have, let's click on the blue plus button. And all of these remarketing lists can be used as YouTube targeting options. The most common one is website visitors, people who have landed on specific pages of your site. It even can be specific pages on your site during specific date ranges, or even a combination of pages. If you do have your Google Analytics account linked to Google Ads, and I really hope you do, you can import audiences from Google Analytics into Google Ads as well. The next option we have is app users. You can create audiences off of people who interacted with certain elements of your app. Even specific engagement metrics within the app can be created and imported to Google Ads as an audience. YouTube users, of course, it's going to be a favorite of mine. People who've watched specific videos, if they've interacted with your channel, if they watch videos as ads, any of the earned actions like liking your video, sharing your video, adding it to a playlist, you can create audiences off of those actions too. I do have a video about YouTube remarketing lists, and you can check that one out right here to get more specific information. Next is customer lists. Take a CSV of your email list and you can upload it into Google Ads. A couple years ago, they did change the rules on what types of accounts can use Customer Match. Pretty much the biggest rule is that your account has to have spent at least $50,000, that's US dollars, all time to even be eligible to use Customer Match. But hopefully you've collected those email lists in an appropriate way. Get in front of those users. Think of the different types of funnels. If you have a list of leads and they haven't closed yet, YouTube videos are a very affordable way to get back in front of that user and remind them to come back to your website and fill out the form, get a trial, whatever your conversion action is. For a lot of the campaigns that I've run for e-commerce clients, we take current customer lists, remind them of specific sales that are going on. If we have that customer list segmented by specific product categories, we can showcase videos of new products that are coming out that user might also be interested in. It's a very affordable way to keep re-engaging with that user to keep coming back and have them purchase from us. So a few things we can do with customer lists. And the options you see on the bottom is custom combination lists. And that is yet again, another video that we have right here that can dive in a little bit deeper. But custom combinations will take any of the 4 that we just talked about: website visitors, app users, YouTube users, and customer lists. And pretty much what it says, you can make your own combinations. So you can create an audience off of people who visited your website and watch these specific YouTube videos. You can create an audience off of people who are a current customer and they perform this specific action on your app. These are best utilized if you have really large audiences that it's worth combining, because the more you combine together, the more you're really going to shrink that audience and make it really specific. And for the majority of the audiences that you create within Google Ads, Google will create a similar audience, and we see some of those right here. And if you're familiar with paid social advertising, think of this as like a lookalike audience. Let me explain further. We have this audience right here of people who viewed any video on our channel within the past 540 days. The YouTube remarketing size is 140,000. Google automatically created a similar audience from this root audience, and that's right below. And that YouTube remarketing size is anywhere between 100,000 and 300,000. So they're taking people who have similar behaviors as our root audience and creating that similar audience to try to help us use if we want to expand our reach. So if you have some very strong audiences created, let's say from confirmation pages or your customer lists, they could be good similar audiences to test. I will be honest, I've seen very mixed performances from Google's similar audiences. They can work really well, they can work okay, they can work horribly. It is one of the last options I test because there are always custom audiences that we can create within the platform, and we will talk about that one soon. But let's get back to the main audience section when we're creating our ad group. Next, we have combined audiences, and these are different from the custom combination list for remarketing. The custom combination list that we already talked about was purely taking your remarketing audiences and making combinations from those. Combined audiences are taking most of the ones that we already talked about already and putting them together. Let me show you what I mean. Going back to that stroller example, I can combine an in-market audience with a detailed demographic. So we can see the weekly impressions on that one is pretty large. If I want to have it be more specific, be like, nope, I'm going to remove married from here. Now look how much the weekly impressions total dipped. I believe it was 7.5 billion. Weekly impressions down to 14 million. So now I'm saying my audience must be in the in-market audience of strollers and baby carriages, and they must also be in the detailed demographics of married. You can see how we can take all of these different audiences that aren't remarketing lists and come up with a variety of combinations. This is exactly why I like using these over some of the higher level categories, especially if I'm limited by budget, because I can test out a variety of new audiences to see if I can improve performance. There's a lot of deeper funnel stuff that we can do first. After combined audiences, we have custom audiences. And in the grand scheme of YouTube targeting, this one is fairly new. It is new because Google combined custom affinity audiences and custom intent audiences into one audience. We used to be able to make separate ones, but now it's all within the same. And even after the combination, it is still my favorite YouTube targeting option. I'm going to hop back into the Audience Manager to show you how we can create these. Up here, instead of remarketing, I have chosen Custom Audiences. And again, we want to click on the blue plus button. And you will see 2 different types of audiences that we can choose from, and it has to be one or the other. For video campaigns, you will need to select people who searched for any of these terms on Google. And that is why custom audiences is one of my favorite targeting options. This is almost like search query history retargeting. It's not going to be exactly what the user searched for. Google says it's going to be broad match related. But getting in front of users who search for specific things on google.com with a video ad is so valuable. A few options I like to use are competitor terms. If people are going to Google looking for your competitors, try to get in front of them on YouTube with a video ad. Showcase why you're the better brand, why your products are better. Drive them to your website. Take the list of all your converting keywords. If you want to get in front of a new audience who's also searching for your keywords that convert the best, it can be pretty affordable to do that with YouTube. And since we all know match types have changed at least 3 times by the time I've done this video, take a list of your converting search queries, because most likely they are different than the actual keywords that you're targeting. Another way that you can affordably try to expand your reach. And in many cases, thinking about non-brand keywords, definitely your competitor keywords, it could be a lot more affordable to get in front of these users and drive traffic with YouTube than trying to bid on some of these really expensive keywords that might be within your industry. Google does recommend having a list of at least 50 keywords. They say it's for accuracy. From my experience, I see it really helps volume. I see more impressions and better exposure when I have more keywords within it. And that makes sense because it's connecting with more queries that people have typed in with google.com. It doesn't have to be all about keywords, because below we can also paste URLs. Try to get in front of people who visit specific websites or websites similar to the ones that we're pasting. Another way that you can add competitor websites, because I want to try to get in front of people who are constantly on those websites. Using my baby stroller client again, yes, I could put competitor websites, but think about all the different types of mother magazines or mommy blogs that are out there. I definitely created a custom audience just from all those types of URLs. And then you see other options there for people who use certain types of apps and have also visited certain places. That's physical locations. So hopefully you see why this one is my favorite and why there's a lot that we can do with custom audiences that can make it more specific than automatically jumping to an affinity audience. We can clearly see audiences as the bulk of the video, but we're not done yet. After audiences, we get to content. And we see the little line item there saying it will help narrow our reach. So the first option is going to be keywords. And keyword targeting for YouTube works in a few different ways. If you are running TrueView discovery campaigns, these are the video campaigns that appear under search results, and they could be the recommended video off to the right-hand side of a watch page or after a video is done being played. TrueView discovery is the only video ad format in Google Ads where you are allowed to target just the YouTube search results. When you use keyword targeting for a TrueView discovery campaign, your keywords are targeted by the words that people are searching for on YouTube. That one makes sense. And then both TrueView Discovery and the TrueView in-stream ads can show up on specific YouTube videos, and I'm talking specifically about the watch pages, as well as certain placements on the Google Display Network. For the video and partner placements, Google will use your keywords to target specific web page and video watch page content. That is a contextual relationship. It doesn't work the same way as the search results. I have found the performance of keyword targeting to work the best for TrueView discovery campaigns. Because again, like I said, I can target just the YouTube search results and make my keyword targeting very specific and have a video that's going to serve that specific query. The other type of keyword targeting that we talked about on YouTube videos, potentially partner sites, that can be pretty broad. And that's where I see mixed results. And ever since those custom audiences came out, even when they were custom intent audiences, going after keywords based on previous search history has given us much better results than just basic keyword targeting. For topic targeting, it's also going to depend on what networks you have selected within your campaign settings. Don't get this one confused with Affinity. Affinity is focused on the user. Topics are focused on themes around the content where your ads are going to be placed. And your placements will be on YouTube and also potentially part of the Google Display Network. We can see how some of these can break down into specific categories, and these could be good layers with in-market audiences as well. I just did a few right there. There are a good amount to go over. We'll choose this one. This one's more fun. Let's say I selected board games. Yes, I could have additional audiences up above that are selected, but I also want my videos to be placed on any YouTube placement or potentially any Google Display placement that is about board games. If you're going purely for a topic-only targeted campaign, that is one I would definitely consider more towards the top of funnel. And that one can also be depending on if you can find a topic that is really close to whatever product or service you're trying to sell, as well as the video creative you have to back it up. So while these are higher level, you still might find something that's relevant to you. So it might just take some time to explore and see if you can find something that's worth testing. And the last option we're going to talk about is going to be placements. You can try to hand select specific video channels, YouTube videos, certain lineups, websites on the display network, as well as app placements for where you want your video ads to be shown. Not too long ago, I just released a video that goes really in depth about placement targeting for YouTube ads. So I will break down each of those 6 different categories so you know what you can actually do with them. But the biggest thing I want to call out is how placement targeting actually works. If you are just targeting YouTube placements, your ad is also eligible to be shown across the Google Display Network and vice versa. So if you're just trying to choose specific website placements on the Google Display Network, your ad can still run on all eligible locations on YouTube. And when they're saying all eligible locations, that is using your default layers. So we've seen a few times if you're trying to target specific placements and you're not eligible to show there, Google will ignore that placement targeting and then look at what other default layers that you have within your targeting settings. This is how you can spend a lot of money and have your ad shown on placements that you did not want. But until you find those good placements, you have to keep a tight eye on your ad groups the moment you launch placement-only targeting ad group. You can see there are so many different targeting options we get with YouTube ads. And that's why I love this channel so much. Besides the default options we get within the platform, the ability to create so many different custom audiences that can fit a very focused strategy is why YouTube is one of my favorite paid media channels. Hopefully this video gave you a bunch of different ideas that you can go in and test within your video campaigns right now. But if you're still looking for help or still have questions on anything we didn't discuss in the video, please ask in the comments below. I could talk about YouTube all day long.
Thanks for watching our video. If you found it useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to see more from the Paid Media Pros channel, be sure to subscribe.